The wind whispered secrets through the tall grass of Giles's farm, secrets he no longer cared to hear. He used to love the sound, the way it meant a good harvest was on its way. Now, it just reminded him of laughter that was gone, of small hands helping with the chores, of a warm embrace at the end of a long day. An accident had taken his wife and children, leaving him alone with acres of land and a heart heavier than any stone. The farm, once a vibrant tapestry of green and gold, now felt muted, gray around the edges. The field stretched out before him, vast and empty, mirroring the hollowness inside. Giles wandered through the rows of corn, his boots heavy in the soil. He ran a calloused hand over the rough stalks, remembering his son, Thomas, who loved to hide amongst them, giggling as Giles pretended not to see him. His farmhouse, once filled with the aroma of baking bread and the sound of happy chatter, stood silent and still. Dust motes danced in the sunbeams that streamed through the windows, illuminating the empty spaces where memories lingered. Giles tried to keep busy, tending to the animals and mending fences, but every task felt like a burden, a reminder of all that he had lost. He longed for the days when the farm was a joyful place, filled with life and love. Now, it was just a constant ache in his soul, a vast expanse of loneliness that seemed to stretch on forever. He closed his eyes, wishing he could turn back time, just for a moment, to hear his wife's sweet voice and feel his children's warm hugs again. The storm arrived with a fury, ripping through the fields like an angry beast. The sky turned a bruised purple, and the wind howled, bending the trees double. Giles huddled inside his farmhouse, the shutters rattling against the windows. Lightning flashed, illuminating the rain-streaked glass. He barely noticed, he was lost in his own thoughts, a familiar comfort in his despair. Suddenly, a frantic knocking echoed through the house. Giles hesitated. He hadn't had a visitor in months. Cautiously, he opened the door. Standing on his porch, drenched and shivering, was a small girl. She couldn't have been more than 6 years old. Her eyes, wide and blue, were filled with fear. Her thin dress was soaked, and her dark hair clung to her face. "Please," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the storm. "I'm lost." Giles stared at her, surprised. What was a child doing out in this weather, alone? He saw the fear in her eyes, the desperate plea for help. His heart, so long encased in ice, softened a little. "Come in, child," he said, his voice rough from disuse. "You'll catch your death out here." He ushered her inside, closing the door against the wind and rain. The little girl stood in his entryway, dripping puddles onto the floor. He noticed she clutched a small, worn doll tightly in her arms. "What's your name?" he asked gently. "Lily," she replied, her voice still trembling. I don't know where my home is." Giles wrapped a warm blanket around Lily's shivering shoulders. He made her some hot cocoa, and she drank it slowly, her big blue eyes fixed on him. He realized how small and vulnerable she was, a tiny sparrow caught in a storm. He couldn't just turn her out into the night. He thought of his own daughter, Sarah, who would have been about Lily's age. The pain was sharp, a familiar ache in his chest. But looking at Lily, he felt something else too, a stirring of protectiveness he hadn't felt in years. He was lonely, desperately so. And this little girl needed him. "You can stay here, Lily," he said, his voice softer now. "At least for tonight. We'll figure things out in the morning." Lily's face lit up with a grateful smile. "Thank you," she whispered. Giles led her upstairs to a small, unused room. It had been Sarah's playroom, and he'd kept it locked since the accident. Dust lay thick on the furniture, and the air smelled stale. But Giles saw Lily's hopeful gaze, and he knew he had to try. He quickly cleaned the room, airing it out and wiping down the surfaces. He found some old blankets and pillows and made a cozy bed on the floor. He even found Sarah's favorite teddy bear, tucked away in a toy chest. He placed it beside Lily's makeshift bed. "It's not much," he said, feeling a pang of guilt. But it's warm and safe. Lily ran her hand over the teddy bear's soft fur. It's perfect, she said, her eyes shining. Thank you, Farmer Giles. As he tucked her in, Giles felt a strange sense of peace. He hadn't felt this, useful, in a long time. Maybe, just maybe, having Lily around wouldn't be so bad after all. The next morning, the storm had passed, leaving the air fresh and clean. Giles expected Lily to want to leave, to search for her family. But instead, she asked if she could help him on the farm. He was surprised but agreed, figuring it would keep her occupied. He started her with simple tasks, like feeding the chickens and collecting eggs. Lily took to it immediately. She spoke softly to the hens, and they seemed to respond, clucking contentedly as she scattered the feed. She knew just how to hold the eggs so they wouldn't break. Soon, she was helping with other chores too. She weeded the garden with surprising diligence, her small hands moving quickly and efficiently. She seemed to have a natural connection with the plants, knowing exactly which ones needed extra care. She loved being in the fields, running her fingers through the tall grass and talking to the cows. Giles watched her, amazed. He hadn't seen anyone, not even his own children, take to farm work so easily. And something else was happening too. As he watched Lily, a small spark of joy began to flicker within him. He found himself smiling again, laughing at her silly jokes, and enjoying the simple pleasures of farm life. The farm, once a source of pain, was slowly becoming a source of healing. Lily's presence filled the empty spaces, chasing away the shadows of grief. Giles realized that he wasn't just giving Lily a home, she was giving him a reason to live again. He felt lighter, happier than he had in years. The weight on his heart was beginning to lift, replaced by a fragile but growing sense of hope. As the weeks passed, Giles noticed something unusual happening on the farm. The crops were growing at an astonishing rate. Corn stalks towered over him, heavy with plump ears. The tomatoes were bigger and juicier than he'd ever seen, their vines overflowing with ripe fruit. Even the pumpkins were enormous, round and orange, like giant suns resting in the fields. The animals, too, seemed healthier and happier. The cows gave more milk, the chickens laid more eggs, and the pigs grew plumper and more content. The old, sickly horse, Bess, who had been limping for years, suddenly seemed spry and energetic, galloping around the pasture with newfound vigor. Giles couldn't explain it. He hadn't changed his farming methods. He'd always taken good care of his land and animals, but he'd never seen results like this. He checked the soil, the water, the fertilizer, but everything seemed normal. He mentioned it to Lily one day as they were weeding the garden. "The crops are doing amazing this year, Lily. It's like magic." Lily just smiled mysteriously. "The land likes being cared for, Farmer Giles," she said. "It's happy now." Giles chuckled, but he couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more to it than just good farming. He started to wonder if Lily had something to do with it. He'd seen her talking to the plants, stroking the animals, her small hands emitting a strange, warm glow. He dismissed it as his imagination, but the strange occurrences continued, making him question everything he thought he knew. The farm was thriving like never before, and Lily was at the heart of it all. Giles started paying closer attention to Lily. He noticed how she knew exactly which plants needed watering, even before the leaves began to droop. She could identify every bird song, every insect buzzing in the fields. She knew which herbs could heal a sick animal and which berries were safe to eat. It was knowledge no ordinary little girl should possess. One day, a calf was born with a twisted leg. The vet said it would likely never walk properly and suggested putting it down. Giles was heartbroken, but he didn't see another option. Lily, however, insisted she could help. She spent hours with the calf, gently massaging its leg and humming softly. She mixed a poultice of herbs and applied it to the injured area. Giles watched skeptically, but he didn't want to discourage her. To his astonishment, the next morning, the calf took its first wobbly steps. Day by day, it grew stronger, and within a week, it was running and playing with the other calves. The vet was astounded. He couldn't explain the calves' miraculous recovery. Giles knew then that Lily was no ordinary child. He couldn't deny it any longer. Her knowledge of plants and animals was far beyond her years, almost unnatural. He became consumed with curiosity. Where did she come from? How did she know so much? What was her secret? He didn't want to pry, but he couldn't shake the feeling that Lily was hiding something extraordinary. He knew he had to find out the truth, no matter what it might be. The full moon hung heavy in the sky, casting an eerie glow over the farm. Giles lay in bed, unable to sleep, his mind racing with questions about Lily. He tossed and turned, the mystery of the little girl consuming him. Suddenly, he heard a soft creak outside his door. He crept out of bed and peeked into the hallway. Lily was standing there, her eyes wide open but unfocused, her arms outstretched as if reaching for something unseen. She was sleepwalking. Giles watched her, his heart pounding. He cautiously followed as she glided silently through the house, out the back door, and into the moonlit fields. She moved with a strange grace, as if guided by an invisible force. She walked towards a part of the farm Giles hadn't visited in years, a dense thicket of trees and overgrown bushes at the edge of the woods. He'd always avoided it, a forgotten corner of his land. Lily pushed through the tangled branches, disappearing into the darkness. Giles hesitated, then followed, pushing aside the thorny bushes. The thicket opened into a small, hidden clearing bathed in moonlight. In the center stood an ancient oak tree, its branches reaching up towards the sky like gnarled fingers. And standing beneath the tree was Lily. She was no longer sleepwalking. Her eyes were closed, and a faint, ethereal glow emanated from her body. He held his breath, unsure of what he was witnessing, but knowing he was about to discover the truth about Lily. Giles watched in stunned silence as the faint glow surrounding Lily intensified. It wasn't a harsh, blinding light, but a soft, warm radiance that seemed to emanate from within her. The air around her shimmered, and the leaves on the oak tree rustled gently, as if responding to her presence. Then, Lily began to speak. But she wasn't speaking in words Giles understood. It was a melodic, flowing language, a series of chirps, whistles, and hums that seemed to resonate with the very earth beneath her feet. He realized she was talking to the plants and animals. He saw fireflies gather around her, their tiny lights blinking in unison as if listening intently. The crickets chirped louder, their song weaving into Lily's strange language. The oak tree seemed to lean closer, its branches swaying rhythmically. Lily reached out her hand and touched the trunk of the tree. The bark seemed to soften beneath her touch, and a small, glowing sapling sprouted at its base. She then knelt down and whispered to the wildflowers growing in the clearing. They seemed to perk up, their colors becoming more vibrant. Giles couldn't believe his eyes. It was as if Lily was a conductor, leading a symphony of nature. He had never witnessed anything so magical, so otherworldly. He felt a sense of awe, mixed with a healthy dose of fear. He was seeing something he wasn't meant to see, a secret world hidden from human eyes. He knew in that moment that Lily was far more than just a lost little girl. She was something extraordinary, something connected to the land in a way he couldn't even begin to understand. Suddenly, Lily gasped, her eyes snapping open. The glow around her faded, and she looked around, her expression shifting from serene to terrified. She saw Giles standing in the shadows, his face etched with a mixture of awe and confusion. "Farmer Giles," she exclaimed, her voice filled with panic. "What are you doing here? Did you see me?" Giles stepped forward, his voice gentle. "Lily, it's all right. I followed you. I saw you talking to the trees and the animals." Lily's eyes welled up with tears. "Oh no," she whispered. "I didn't want you to see. I'm so sorry." "Sorry for what, Lily?" Giles asked, his heart aching for the frightened little girl. You haven't done anything wrong. Yes, I have, she said, her voice trembling. I'm not. I'm not a normal girl, Farmer Giles. I have a secret, a big secret. And now you know. She looked at him, her eyes pleading. Please don't be scared of me, she begged. I didn't mean for you to find out this way. I was going to tell you, but I didn't know how. Giles knelt down beside her, taking her small hand in his. Lily, I'm not scared, he said, his voice reassuring. I'm just curious. Tell me your secret. I promise I'll listen. Lily took a deep breath, her eyes fixed on the ground. I'm not really lost, she said softly. I was sent here. And I'm not like other children. Lily took a shaky breath and began to explain. I'm a being of the land, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I'm connected to the earth, to the plants and animals. I can help things grow, I can heal them when they're sick. It's hard to explain. She looked up at Giles, her eyes filled with a mixture of fear and hope. I was sent here, to your farm. I felt the land was hurting, that something was wrong. And I knew you needed help too. Giles stared at her, trying to process what she was saying. A magical being. Connected to the land. It sounded like something out of a fairy tale. But he had seen her glowing, heard her talking to the animals. He couldn't deny what he had witnessed. You were sent to help me? He asked, his voice incredulous. But why? What's wrong with my farm? The land is sad, Lily explained. It feels your pain, your sadness. The accident, it hurt the land too. It made it weak. That's why the crops weren't growing well, why the animals were sick. The land needs healing, Farmer Giles. And so do you. She reached out and touched his hand, her touch sending a warm, tingling sensation through his body. I can help you both, she said. But you have to believe me. You have to trust me. Giles looked into her eyes, and he saw not a frightened little girl, but something ancient and wise, something powerful and kind. He knew, deep down, that she was telling the truth. He had no idea what the future held, but he knew that Lily was the key to healing his farm and, perhaps, his broken heart. Giles was still reeling from Lily's revelation. A magical being. It was almost too much to comprehend. But as he looked at her, at the sincerity in her eyes, he couldn't dismiss it. He had seen the glow, heard the language, witnessed the impossible healing of the calf. He had to believe her. And as he did, a wave of understanding washed over him. He remembered the years before the accident, when his family had struggled. The crops hadn't been as bountiful, the animals hadn't been as healthy. He'd blamed it on bad weather, on poor soil, on his own lack of skill. But now, he realized it was something more. The accident hadn't just taken his family, it had wounded the land itself. His grief, his despair, had poisoned the soil, weakened the plants, and sickened the animals. He had been so consumed by his own pain that he hadn't noticed the suffering of the farm, the very thing his family had loved and nurtured. I understand, he said, his voice choked with emotion. The accident, it made the land sick. That's why we were struggling. That's why my family. He couldn't finish the sentence, the pain still too raw. Lily squeezed his hand. It's not your fault, Farmer Giles, she said gently. You were hurting. But it's not too late to heal. We can heal the land together. We can bring back the life and the joy. Giles looked at her, a glimmer of hope flickering in his heart. He didn't know how they would do it, but he trusted Lily. He believed in her. And for the first time in a long time, he felt a sense of purpose, a reason to keep going. He wasn't just a heartbroken farmer anymore. He was a protector of the land, a partner in healing. And he had Lily by his side. And so, Giles and Lily began their work. It wasn't easy, but they were determined. Lily showed Giles how to connect with the land, how to listen to its needs. She taught him about the power of intention, of gratitude, of love. They started by clearing away the overgrown weeds and thorns that had choked the fields. They planted new seeds, carefully chosen for their ability to heal the soil. Lily sang to the plants as they grew, her melodic voice filling the air with life and energy. Giles, in turn, poured his heart and soul into the farm. He worked tirelessly, mending fences, cleaning barns, and tending to the animals with newfound care. He spoke to them gently, thanking them for their contribution to the farm. Slowly but surely, the land began to respond. The crops grew taller and stronger, the animals became healthier and more vibrant. The fields transformed from a dull, lifeless brown to a lush, vibrant green. The air filled with the sweet scent of blossoms and the buzzing of bees. The farm became a beacon of life, a testament to the power of healing and the magic of connection. Giles's heart, too, began to heal. The pain of his loss didn't disappear entirely, but it became easier to bear, replaced by a sense of peace and contentment. He found joy in the simple things, in the beauty of nature, in the companionship of Lily. The farm was prosperous once more, not just in crops and livestock, but in spirit and in love. The land, and Giles, were finally healing. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset paint the sky in hues of orange and purple, Giles turned to Lily. "You know," he said, "I've been thinking. You came to me during that storm, saying you were lost. But I don't think that was an accident." Lily smiled knowingly. "No, it wasn't," she said. "I was sent to you, Farmer Giles. But not just to help the land." "I know," Giles said, his heart filled with warmth. "I think I was meant to help you too. You needed a home, a place to belong. And I needed you." He realized that Lily's arrival had been a turning point in his life. He had been so consumed by his grief that he had forgotten how to love, how to care. Lily had brought back the light, not just to the farm, but to his soul. He had given her a home, but she had given him so much more in return. She had given him a reason to live, a purpose to fulfill, and a love that transcended the pain of his loss. "We were meant to find each other, Lily," he said, his voice filled with gratitude. "You needed me, and I needed you. It was fate." Lily leaned against him, her small hand resting on his. "We're a family now, Farmer Giles," she said. "And we'll always be together, protecting the land and each other." Giles looked at her, his heart overflowing with love. He had lost his family, but he had found a new one, a magical one, bound together by fate and a shared love for the land. He knew that as long as he had Lily by his side, he could face anything. The farm, once a place of sorrow and silence, blossomed into a haven of joy and laughter. The farmhouse, once filled with echoes of the past, now vibrated with the sounds of life. The aroma of baking bread mingled with the scent of wildflowers, creating a symphony of the senses. Giles and Lily worked side by side, their bond growing stronger with each passing day. They planted a new garden, filled with colorful flowers and fragrant herbs. They welcomed new animals to the farm, each one adding to the vibrant tapestry of life. Lily's laughter echoed through the fields, chasing away the shadows of grief. She taught Giles how to see the magic in the everyday, how to appreciate the beauty of a sunrise, the song of a bird, the dance of the fireflies. Giles, in turn, shared his knowledge of the land, his wisdom passed down through generations of farmers. He taught Lily how to read the weather, how to predict the seasons, how to care for the soil. They celebrated every harvest, every birth, every small victory with joy and gratitude. The farm became a community, a place where everyone was welcome, where everyone was loved. Giles and Lily were more than just a farmer and a magical being, they were a family. They shared meals, told stories, and supported each other through thick and thin. They were bound together by a love that transcended blood, a love that was rooted in the land and nurtured by the spirit of the farm. They had created a haven, a sanctuary, a place where hearts could heal and dreams could blossom. The farm was truly a happy place again, overflowing with life and love. And so, Farmer Giles's farm became a legend in the surrounding countryside. People came from miles around to marvel at the lush fields, the healthy animals, and the sense of peace that permeated the air. They whispered stories of the magical little girl who could talk to plants and heal the sick, and of the kind-hearted farmer who had given her a home. Giles was no longer known as the heartbroken farmer. He was known as the guardian of the land, the protector of the farm, and the loving father of Lily. He still missed his family, but the pain was softened by the joy and love he found in his new life. Lily, too, had found a place where she belonged. She was no longer a lost and frightened little girl. She was a part of the land, a protector of nature, and a beloved member of her family. She had found a purpose, a home, and a love that filled her heart with happiness. Together, Giles and Lily lived happily ever after, protecting the land, nurturing its spirit, and sharing its bounty with all who came to their farm. They were a testament to the power of healing, the magic of connection, and the enduring strength of love. The farm remained a sanctuary, a beacon of hope, a place where hearts could heal and dreams could blossom, all thanks to a heartbroken farmer and a little girl with a shocking secret. Their story was a reminder that even in the darkest of times, love and hope can always be found, blooming like wildflowers in the most unexpected places.